I welcome you all to this webinar on DevOps. Great to have all of you here this evening to participate in this particular webinar, and hope this webinar will help you, take up a career path in DevOps as such. To introduce myself, I'm Rajiv Chandran. I kind of come with more than 15 plus years of experience and having worked in one of those big fives, and have been practicing DevOps for the last 6 years or so. Now getting into the course itself and this webinar, so I presume this is probably a first attempt to create a course on DevOps in a very structured manner by us. And DevOps, though DevOps has been in practice for the last 5 years or so, 5+ years or so, or a little more than that, but it has never been organized into a structured training which anybody could, attend and then firm up their skills to take this particular course. See, DevOps is primarily been practiced only in these internet firms, the big five, and on the smaller cities as such. This particular course has been designed keeping that experience, that practical experience, so in such a way that you will henceforth be able to have the same skills that a person in a Google or a Yahoo or a LinkedIn would have. And you could practice this, therefore, in an internet organization, as well as apply this in enterprise organizations, large enterprise organizations as well. We are trying to create. We also have a certification which eventually you will get after completing one of our labs and things. So that would actually, give you the profile to what you would want to then go ahead and do with it, because today DevOps is one of the most sought after skills in the industry as such. So with this kind of introduction, let me just get into the presentation as such, so you would know much more deeper on what DevOps is and about. So objective, so let's try to understand what DevOps itself is. Let's understand the uses of DevOps. How does it benefit? What skills are required to be a DevOps person? And how is it going to be implemented specifically in an enterprise organization compared to that in an internet organization, because it's already practiced there by default. Explore what tools that you would need, and we also look at a use case where this can be applied, and we have taken a use case out of one big organization which probably should have used this in a more effective way. Okay, so what is DevOps? So operations is what every system admin practices. Okay, so there are as we know, there are various levels of operations that we do: system side, network side, DBAs, security people. There are various people who do the DevOps the operations as such. Now we also have these people who who do the development as such. Now what happens is people who develop would like to see their product in operations sooner than later. Now for this to happen, we did not see this quite a bit in the general enterprises prior to 2008 or so. It was not practiced that much there. But this became a little prominent because of the internet companies, where whatever that is developed had to get into operations sooner than later. Okay, so so as such, we had the dev team and we had the ops team, and when we merged them is what we got as the DevOps. So why DevOps? Now, as I was just letting you know, as developers, there are new features. I mean, coming from the business side, businesses always want to have new features added and quickly, and then you also want this to get into the production quicker than quickly, so that they are able to meet up the customer or the client requirements as such. Now, it's not that easy to create a new feature and then have that tested and then getting into production. So in a typical scenario, this would take days. Now we are saying, can we have this probably in hours, because that's the kind of response the clients want. So developers want change, ops want stability, and how do you get both of this in a balanced way? So this skill set of DevOps will help you to meet that requirement. And what are these requirements, we will see as we go along. So all the while, all operations in IT were siloed. Software development would happen in its way, operations would happen in its way, support would happen, I mean software support would happen in its own way, and business requirements would come from a different team altogether, and all of them worked in a very siloed fashion. There was hardly any integration between these teams in any way. Because that was okay in the enterprise world when we didn't have so much of a fast response. It was completely okay. It was the old-fashioned way. People were completely comfortable with the timelines they had. They had easily weeks to get some new feature out, or weeks or even months to get the new feature out, test it, and then roll it out. But that would not be the case in an internet-sized or what we call as the web scale architecture. In web scale architecture, responses had to be fast. So today we know there are a lot of these web scale architectures which are coming up from in the e-com space, in the various other listings like the movement for, I mean, basically anything that gets into online, you had to have changes happening fast, and if you find some way where that I could add a new feature and then have it rolled out in hours, probably the profit margins are much more than you would have otherwise done going in a slow fashion way. Now for all this to work, we need to have high level of integration. The integration had to be so precise and it had to be fast. They had to evolve new strategies, have new tools, and a new set of skills to implement all of these things. And that's what, though it might not have been called as DevOps earlier, but it was probably an agile, they would more or less call it as agile computing or so. But somewhere around the 2008, 2009 time, this agile development slowly got evolved into DevOps with the adoption of cloud and various other technologies. And this kickstarted this whole process of merging the dev part and the ops part and have it integrated with your business requirements. So this gave this gave new features or solutions to clients in hours compared to what you would do it in otherwise. So any questions until this time? If anybody, so if you have anything, you can have that posted in the okay, I think I see a lot of questions. I will take them up. Let me cover a little more slides and then I will start taking up each of these questions as such. Okay, so as I was telling you, the agile development philosophy is what got transformed as DevOps, where various teams, the dev team, the testing, the operations, would henceforth sit in as seen as one single team to do all the entire solutioning, the end-to-end solutioning for this whole problem of of quicker response compared to the old or as I would say, which the terminology which if you have come from a virtualization background, they would always tell you we have moved from a capex model to an opex model. So a capex takes weeks to deliver something, whereas opex does it in a jiffy, and that's what we expect to happen in a DevOps environment. Yeah, and as I was trying to tell you, the period 2008-2009 was a very important year when the virtualization started taking off, and then we had cloud coming in, and added to this the agile development came into picture, and then all this kind of merged to what we see today as DevOps. And as I still talk, see, this is still very well practiced in all the internet or the web scale enterprises, but the adoption as such is not much happened yet in the enterprise world, and that is where the opportunity lies for all of you guys who want to adopt this, because the next phase or the largest phase of implementation and adoption will come in the enterprise world, because this helps to bring in a kind of consistent solutioning operations, and as everybody would want, sometimes per user to the number of servers, the average reduces. So all of this would all of these benefits you would start seeing in. Okay, so as I was just saying, the benefits of DevOps. So we will have consistent operations delivery, continuous software delivery, faster mean time to recovery, faster problem resolution, and from the financial aspects, we'll have a huge cost reduction, because the number of architects and support engineers who would be involved in the overall operations would have come down because of the automation kicking in. Shorten lead time for new features, as businesses always want quicker responses for all of their requirements. Improved client services, more time available to add valuable services. So see, these are the general benefits that are actually going to kick in for all of these once you adopt a DevOps in an environment. Okay, I mean, this is some. This would be an interesting slide for all of you all being here, and everybody would be keen to know who can kind of adopt DevOps. Is it only systems guys who are going to turn into a DevOps, or is it going to be developers who are going to also have operations, getting into an operations field as well? So, primarily, what happens is, if earlier, when I say early 2000s, when I used to do operations, so I also come with a huge infrastructure background as such. So when I used to do operations, at best what we would do is scripting, which is a kind of automation as such. Now, scripting, primarily we would run some shell, which would be a cone shell or a just a bone shell, and then later into a bash shell environment. So that is the best level of automation we have got into. But it was also the time where Yahoo's and Google's have also stepped in, and they brought in a whole new thinking into this into these operations as such. Now, the engineers there were not just scripting guys. They were basically developers. They were also they were actually developers who then got into a lot of operational activities. And then they did not go much into the development of the product per se. So they got stuck on to the operations part of customization. And being so, they had the skills to automate in a bigger way compared to what we would have done in a bash-based automation. So primarily all these people earlier came with Perl. So Perl became the default programming language for this automation, and that was heavily used at Yahoo's and the kinds at Yahoo's being one of the first to come into the space though. But later on, when Google stepped in 3-4 years later, they did not adopt Perl. They adopted Python as their language to do the operations. So then we had this whole set of Python engineers, Python rather developers. They were actually, they would develop a web. They would develop either web applications, or they would develop any general applications using Python as their language, who then got into this field of automation, and they were full-fledged programmers. So Python then became the default language for the automation, or the DevOps. The other word for DevOps prior to thing was automation, and now we call it DevOps. So Python became the default language there, and as time went round, they also found Ruby as another language which they could adopt for automation. And as we speak, so today you will primarily have Perl, Python, or Ruby being so extensively used in I would presume 95 plus, unless and otherwise there is very unique places for not using them. So as a person today who wants to adopt or you want to adopt a career in DevOps, first you should have the domain skills on the operation side, that is understanding all your servers, your source storages, your applications, basically the middleware applications as such, and the operating system itself, plus having a lot of development skills. When I say a lot of development, I mean I'm basically looking at a full-fledged developer in any of those three languages which I talked about, and knowing these three, plus understanding this whole process of re-engineering. So when I say re-engineering, what I'm looking at is today, you know that consolidation is a major activity which is going around organizations. So everybody are consolidating. So when I say consolidating here, at this moment, it is basically virtualization. So the next step for these people, once they have virtualized, I said in this case, they moved from a CapEx model to an OpEx model, then the whole process of re-engineering comes in to automate this entire process of provisioning probably a virtual machine, deploying an application, deploying configuration to a system. So this whole suite of requirement to make something up and run 24/7 would step in. So you need to understand all these things apart from your general other skills. So this all put together is what would give you that DevOps skill. And I must say this is not restricted to just system admins alone. Either a system admin can adopt a programming language and get into it, or a developer can understand the system side or the operation side of it and get into it. And to do this, there are a whole set of tools which I will also explain to you a little later, which is actually involved in this whole process of DevOps. Okay, I'm sure you might have heard this term a lot. We hear this term, what is called as continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Okay, so the automation probably kind of evolved in a bigger way from this particular path. Now, if you look at continuous delivery, what was earlier done is you would code, you would do a test, and then you would integrate the various parts, and your acceptance test was manual before going into production. This was what was called as continuous delivery. Now, comparing this with continuous deployment, your acceptance test also got into an auto mode, and you would do the testing automatically, and then this would go directly into deployment. So this way we have completely eliminated this whole process of new feature release uploading your code to the deployment in an automated fashion, just like it happens in a factory. So this increased the overall time frame to, or rather decrease the time frame to come into news. And this is the whole process. Now I will come into each of these individual cycles a little while. So this is the whole picture of what happens in this continuous integration process as such. What are the tools that you would have, how the automation is handled, how the release automation, how the infrastructure automation is handled, how the applications are managed. Now this is the whole process, and they have moved towards more of a factory model where the user intervention is minimized or at every level to keep consistency and faster delivery. Okay, so we will look at each one of these portions. Then this is how roughly DevOps life would look like. We'll have the provisioning, we'll have the configuration, and finally the integration, and the apps getting deployed. So this is the rough cycle. So now this is the reprocess engineering that you would need to understand for this automation to happen. And when I talk about the use case, we will know that in a much better way. Okay, now first thing I want to tell you is there are various levels of automation. Okay, one is what we call as infrastructure automation. The other is configuration management. Okay. Third is continuous integration. Fourth is the deployment methodology. And the fifth point, monitoring, does the whole of this, monitoring actually gets into the whole of these spaces. So we look at what is this infrastructure automation. Okay, so these are 4 stages of adoption of DevOps. Okay, when I say infrastructure automation, now this is an automation which happened much before even the DevOps or agile computing existed. So much before that, we had this concept called network installation. So in a network installation, we would deploy your operating system without user intervention, with just the case of we would just power on the system and you would have the OS deployed automatically. Now this is an automation which existed for a long time with various Unix risk-based architectures would support this in a big way, but not deployed correctly at that point in time, because automation was in a very simple sense, we did not have. So as I would give you an example, early 2000, one engineer would manage probably 40 to 50 Unix servers, and today if I take per engineer would probably be handling in an enterprise world at least 1,000 to 2,000 servers in a single shift. And if you look this in the internet, internet or the internet scale architecture, the web internet enterprises, they would be probably handling around 8,000 to 10,000 servers per engineer during their shift. Okay, so managing such kind of operations and managing such kind of installation would require a totally different engineering as such. So to help in these places, people have their own. If it's the enterprise space, they will have their own lot of their own custom tools. But basically, there are some base tools which they would use to build. But if you want to adopt this, there are many open source tools like Cobbler and Foreman and Crowbar, which are used for managing infrastructure automation. So that is all about the infrastructure automation. Now the next part is the configuration automation. So let me talk a little about this configuration automation, and I'll give you an example. Imagine I have to build up 100 servers installed with say Apache. Now how do we do this? So through the automation, the infrastructure automation, I would deploy my operating system. Then once this is deployed, I would also need to have the configuration applied across these 100 machines. So what is the configuration that you make? You would say your http.conf. You would need to change your virtual server configurations or any other configuration. So now how do you apply them? Now this is where the configuration management comes in, and with these products called Puppet and SaltStack and Chef and Ansible and things like that, these tools would then deploy these configuration files across these 100 machines in a very consistent way. Now, I also want to tell you here, see, it's not that they would just deploy configuration files. I could also, at a minimal level, even install applications. Okay, so I can actually basically do a lot of things. I can run commands across these 100 systems. I could just write, just say, let me say, I want to find the date of 100 machines. I would just type in the date, and it would then give me the list of dates of all 100 machines. So configuration management is the tool which actually binds this whole other whole other automations together. Now, but for the configuration management to kick in, we would need through the infrastructure automation install the basic configuration management tools. So that is also some work which gets into the infrastructure automation, and from then onwards your configuration management can kick in. Now that's about the configuration management. Now coming to the continuous integration. So the most important tool here is the version control systems. So like SVN, your Git. So this guy keeps all the changes that developer does, and he uses Jenkins or Hudson, whatever that may be, to manage this whole stuff. And then he would then compile this and then probably again push it into a deployment tools like a Yum repository or an RPM repository or a Dev repository. So this is where the continuous your continuous deployment would start from. So in the continuous deployment, we would use any of these automated tools to actually deploy these applications. Now, I could use even a configuration management to actually deploy the apps, or I could custom build. So in most scenarios, what I've noticed, they have custom built tools to deploy these applications than using configuration manager. So it could be we don't have much of an open source tool to actually do a deployment as such. So it can be evolved through a custom build, or use a configuration management to deploy these application as well. So this way, we have continuously taken care of installing your OS, deploying your configurations, deploying your apps, and then also if you just see the slide here, doing the integration also. So you see that if I deploy a web server, I would need him to be attached to the load balancer, and then backward integrate this into a DB, etc. So this integration would also be taken care as part of these operations using these tools. Now, apart from these integration, we also need to make sure that everything is running as we want. Okay, and then we are going to have these monitoring tools to manage this. I will talk a little more on the monitoring tools when I do the use case, because that's where you would you would be able to understand that in a better way. Okay, now we know that who can adopt it. So the next question is, how do we adopt it? Okay, so this seems to be the biggest challenge, but everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to do it because they know the benefits. They know the benefits are huge in terms of your operational cost and things like that. But we would need to bring in a culture. We would need to bring in a team with a unique set of skills. There's going to be a lot of change in the way the operations itself is going to be handled. See, we would continue to use ITIL, but ITIL in a way that is adopted to DevOps. Because understand here, this is not just a operations team work. This is going to be a development as well as an operations team who are going to run this entire operations. So we would need to changes in that, and most importantly, and the most important part here is the whole reason why here is, what is the technology that needs to be adopted by an organization to have the DevOps DevOps environment within that organization, and who is going to do this? What are the kind of skills? I think by now you know what are the kind of skills that you may require. What are the tools that you would need? Would you want to go in for an open source tool, or would you want to go in for products from HPs and IBMs and CAs or BMCs. So this whole thing is what you as architects need to vision and get into it. So there are, as always, PPT. There's people, process, and technology, but which require for this DevOps to get adopted. And there's a huge mindset change that is required to bring in this. And as I always said, there's a huge savings as such. Okay, so at this moment, there's a 26% increase in the rate of adoption. And I said, as I was saying this, there is a huge number of requirements which are going to come up in the coming years as companies adopt DevOps or basically automation in their organization. And at this point in time, I think more than 80% might have virtualized. Once they virtualize, you would invariably get into the next stage, and that is the automation stage. And with various other tools which are coming in apart from the tools which I mentioned, like OpenStack and Docker and various other things which are coming in. So you're going to see huge requirements for this DevOps, because basically you're bringing in consistency and lowering cost. That's all. And you are it is OPEX based operation, not CAPEX based operation. Okay, now this is something which is which would interest you, and this is the use case which I want to talk about. I think everybody knows that recently we had this million day or a billion day event organized by a lot of e-com guys. Okay, and we also had a lot of bad press about it as well, right? Now, what I thought is, I would want to give a use case out of this and how DevOps would have probably helped them. I mean, I'm not sure whether what level of DevOps adoption do they have at present, but if, I would assume if it was the best possible DevOps, probably we could have avoided that bad press or so. Now, what I want to tell you is, so let me give you this example. So, I mean, everybody would prepare really well for this particular D-Day. They would have, taken care of their systems, they are taking care of their applications, and they would have done their load tests, stress tests, and keeping in mind that these are the kind of number of people who would come in, would kind of connect on that particular day to doing the e-com part and e-com and stuff like. So at this moment, imagine we have designed our infrastructure to handle 10,000 connections simultaneously. So what would happen if the 10,000 plus one customer comes in? Can he handle, can this infrastructure handle this? We probably can't, because it was not designed for that. And that is why we had this whole set of problems. So we literally can't handle it. So now what do we do if the 10,000 plus one guy comes? He'll have to wait in queue. There is no other way out. Now, is there a way through through this automation, we could have handled this guy and handle in such a way that we wouldn't lose him? So is that possible? Yes, this is possible. So how would you handle such a situation? Now, this is where horizontal scaling architecture would come in, and how DevOps is going to utilize this horizontal scaling to handle this. So where does the where does the customer first go and do a hit? He's going to go and do a hit on the web server. Now, we know that this guy can't, the infrastructure at this moment cannot handle the 10,000 plus one user. Now, if I had a way through the monitoring tool, this is where I want to get into the monitoring tool. through the monitoring tools, I would continuously monitor how are the users coming in. Now, when I reach that 10,001, what I can do is I can write my own automation using the monitoring tools. When the monitoring tool sends an alert, the alert can be picked up by a system, and the system knows that, oh, the user has gone beyond what we have anticipated. He would quickly spawn a new system immediately to handle this additional load. Now, how do we do this? So the first thing, the monitoring, the alert is trapped by a system. He would spawn a server. He would install all that applications that are required. He will apply the configuration. He will then attach this system to the load balancer. Invariably, it's going to be a load balancer. And then in a matter of 10 to 15, maximum 10, we see that we are able to have a complete operating system ready to handle the new set of users. Now, this is the level of automation we would want, and we actually see this happening in the big five internet organization, and probably everybody in the e-com or in the web space, wherever there is web scale architecture, we should be able to do these kind of. And how do we do this? We would need all those tools which I mentioned about to get into this this level of automation, where without user intervention, without the operator invention, I am able to spawn new systems to handle new load. And this is where we say this is a true case of OpEx-based delivery. And to do this delivery, as I said, we need those 4 layers of automation integrated to your monitoring to take this to make this happen. So I hope you probably have understood how this whole thing is going to be managed through DevOps, and the following slides are basically telling you whatever that I have actually mentioned. And now just let's get into the job trends. And as you see, month on month, actually, I mean, here we're seeing years. Month on month, we see the huge requirement for DevOps. I mean, if you could have a profile of a DevOps, you would know the number of hits that you would get in any of these job sites, or even from any of the LinkedIn's and things like that. So there is a huge requirement. The skills for every 100 openings, there are not more than 10 people who are at present skilled to take up this. So that is where we as an organization want to make sure that we can come up with some goals to help people adopt this in a quicker way, in a structured way, and be ready to take up any of these openings in India or abroad. Okay, so before getting into the labs, I don't know whether we may have time, but I would probably want to answer a lot of these questions. I think I have a lot of them. Let me take this. Okay, so we have a lot of them. I don't know where to start off. Okay, yeah. So is it just agile? So Rajesh wants to know, is it just agile dev into ops? Not really. It is merging. It's just not agile development. It is agile development with agile operations that actually creates your DevOps skills. Now, as you know, that it's just not ITIL or a development alone that can create this. You need a lot of other tools, and you need to know those. You need to know how to integrate these tools using one of those languages which I asked you to be good at. So it's just not agile. Okay. or using it tools. So yeah, I think I probably answered that. Is it one person or team? Okay, so this is not one person. This is a team. So what is the team? See, I want to clearly let you know here, the operation teams remains operation teams, the dev team remain dev teams, but what is happening here is the operations guy had a lot of dev skills, and the dev guy gets a lot of domain skills. So merging of these two is what DevOps is all about. I hope I'm answering those questions. So how is DevOps different from Agile development? So as I said, we've always had Agile development. It is just that we integrated operations into your Agile development. So it became Agile development plus Agile operation, and that is what we call DevOps. Okay, so Pramod, you're asking me, repeat the purpose of DevOps. So what is the purpose? So as I said, I mean, for a CIO, it's just about bringing in lower cost to operations and bringing in a certain level of consistency, because the user intervention is not there. It's, I mean, when I say user, I mean the operations intervention. It's all automated. I mean, I'm not sure whether you've read about this. Sometime back, we had a case in in Amazon where accidentally, sometimes too much of automation also impacts. Running a particular script or a process wiped out a lot of existing data. So that can also happen when you go get into too much of operation. But AWS is one of the best examples of how they've been consistent and consistent with their operations and reduce the operations by bringing in these DevOps skills. Okay, is this specific to Agile or any dev methodology? So the dev methodology remains dev methodology, ITIL remains ITIL, but we bring in agility. Through automation, through some tools, and we change the perspective of Agile development and the way you run operations through ITIL. So that perspective is definitely changed, and we also get in the tools, as you know, to make this happen as such. Okay, so as I said, so Gopal wants to know what is the best suitable scenario where we adopt. Okay, I can also give you one more, scenario. I just described about the e-com. So just take, on a cricket day, if you take ESPN cricinfo.com or cricket.yahoo.com, the number of users can spike unexpectedly. Unexpectedly, you can see spikes. It could be various reasons. Now, when you see those spikes, presently you know that your infrastructure is designed for a certain amount of load. It can't handle spikes. So now, when the spikes come, you should have put in an automation whereby which you can handle this. So how do you get in? I said you need those 4 layers of tools and the monitoring, and you can quickly adopt and adapt to whatever kind of spikes that may appear. So this is another scenario where you would see this being created. So DevOps is going to be applied across applications, basically in the web side to cater to these demands. And since there are a lot of developers here, you would know that it's just not the web alone, that can scale. backend databases also need to scale. So that means the application design itself would come in a different way. We may not just use RDBMS there. We may have to use other technologies like the NoSQL, which can allow the horizontal. So the whole mantra here is it's horizontal scaling. It's all about horizontal scaling. So as users grow, I just need to plug in something and it should be cater to this. So it could be at any layer, the web layer, middle layer, DB layer, any layer. I just need to plug in and I should see the operations happening. So how is the job market? So I have done Red Hat certification. So this is Ganapati. So how is the job market demand? I have done Red Hat OpenStack certification, and however still not all companies are using OpenStack. Hey, yeah, first thing, OpenStack is one way of adopting what is called as orchestration or the software. So it is or the way VMware defines it, software defined data centers. Okay, so where do we use OpenStack? Yeah, we would want to get into this concept called software defined data centers, and this is where OpenStack would kind of fit in. Now, to have this software defined data center, again, we need to have these automation tools in place. So that means by default, you are again getting in these automation tools or the DevOps layer here to do this entire automation. So OpenStack is just one of the tools of the whole set to get this going as such. Talking about the job market, so as I said, DevOps is not OpenStack. DevOps is probably not Docker. DevOps is a combination of skills which I discussed earlier, and I can just repeat that once more. It is coding, it is understanding the domain, and knowing a lot of other tools in the 4 layers which I talked about: your infrastructure automation, your config management, your continuous integration, continuous deployment scenarios, and also knowing monitoring. And how do you integrate all of them together? So I mean, I'm sure we probably can't learn all of this, but knowing major of it is important for you to have that skill, and this is one burgeoning market. I shall show you that. Okay, Chandra wants to know, does it mean that DevOps is more of automation of series of activity achieved at each level? Is that correct to assume? It is automation at all levels, but it is automation of your operations. And to do the automation of your operations, you also need to get in your dev team, and that's what DevOps is all about. Okay, is there, this is a pros, I suppose. Is there any benchmark where a company should decide to go in for DevOps? Okay, this is an interesting question. Yeah, so who could adopt DevOps and how it's going to be adopted? Now, I told you that consolidation is happening at every organization. So when I say consolidation, people have their systems spread across 5 data centers, 10 data centers, and they're kind of consolidating into 1 or 2, or I mean, you will default to 2 data centers or so, or 2 or 4, whatever that may be. Now, is consolidation and automation? Okay, that's the first beginning of an automation, because when you consolidate, what you are indirectly telling is, I have adopted virtualization. So virtualization is the starting point for DevOps. Now, once you have consolidated, now does that mean that I can adopt DevOps? Okay, I probably did not mention this, I think, in the beginning. See, the whole idea here is we want to bring in DevOps into the enterprise world, and that's where the market is. we all know, as I said, we all know that this was being used very extensively in the internet space, and so how do we get this into the enterprise world? Now, you should remember one thing: all these web scale architecture companies like your LinkedIn's and Google's, they all have a homogeneous environment. That means their servers are alike, their OSs are alike, they're configured alike, their apps are also continuously aligned to all of these requirements, their databases are alike. But when we talk about an enterprise, it is a heterogeneous environment. You'll have some Linux in some side, you'll have .NET in Windows in some side, you'll have different kind of storages, servers. So it is not that easy to kind of bring in DevOps into this. So this is where the challenge is, and this is where you need to bring in your expertise to solve these things, so that you could then bring about the same DevOps environment into to the organization, and as such, the end point here is how to save cost, how to save and bring in your consistent deployment scenario. Okay, so this is where it is. So it is just not about concurrent connections alone. It is about much more than how to bring in a consistency. And so, like if you talk about enterprise world, let's say you have your internal application, say like your portal, your internal portal. Now, can we automate that? So imagine if that goes down, how you could have automated the thing, or if it of the internal portal servers, having an unexpected spike, how you would have handled that. So these are the things which you would want to address. But the complexity in enterprise world is much more. There is a deeper study required on how to adopt DevOps, but DevOps is the way for all of these people, for a simple reason: they have virtualized their environment. Once you virtualize, you have to adopt DevOps in some way or the other going forward. Okay, so I kind of hit my time, and there are a lot of duration of training. This is going to be the consistent. I think it's the 30 hours or 32 hours. I think I'm not fully sure, but these are things which you could just write to a backend team, and they should definitely help you out on these things. So are you talking training course on it by chance? Also, will this recording be available? Sorry, I missed a part of the presentation due to me. Samir, yes, I think this will be available. You could just write to our team, and they should be able to assist you. Yeah, I mean, I know there are a lot more questions. Sorry that I can't go beyond this because of the time factor and stuff. But we are here. You could mail us at sales or to Edureka, and then we should be able to answer all of your questions. So just to quickly go through how the whole training would, it's an online based training. All the material and everything is available 24/7. It's in an LMS. You'll have a module-wise quiz, and what we are trying to do with this particular course is give you a certification if you finish your project, and this certification will kind of vouch for saying that you are a DevOps person, and you could use this in many places. And that's what. And I said the course has been designed in such a way that it has adopted all the best practices of the internet, and trying to also bring in something which would be required for your enterprise, and this is designed by practitioners, and I'm being one of them. This is being designed by practitioners. So whatever we are talking is just what you would go use in your organization, wherever you would want to start this consulting practice for DevOps, or implement for within your own organization as such. So thank you all for coming for this webinar. It's been great. to have you all, and I'm sure that there are a lot of questions, and I did not probably answer most of it. I just picked up here and there in random, but we are here to answer all your questions, and hopefully once your questions arrive, I should be able to answer you on time. Once again, thank you for coming, and I'm going to disconnect this for this thing.